Once again, we raise the question, what does it mean to be an immortal? In order to be a cow, not much more is required than just to exist. This does not apply to a human being. Of course, a baby is also a human being. However, it is true as well. Only then a baby is really a human being when it has learned to walk, to speak, to write, to read, to calculate, and many other things associated with being human. As paradoxical as it may sound, it is true. Nevertheless, to be born is not enough. Afterwards, man has yet to become a human being. A being that does not develop the potential which nature or God has bestowed on it fails to fulfill his mission. Thus, for a higher being than an animal, to live means to consciously use one's abilities and to develop them further and further. This also applies to a non-material creature like your soul. If you really want to transform and to become a soul, you have to recognize, to apply, to develop, and to constantly expand the gigantic potential of such a spiritual being. On this divine plane, each one is the builder of his soul and the architect of his own immortality. Your eternal individuality is only just at the beginning of its conscious development. Today, it is still like a baby, small, weak, unsheltered, vulnerable, and suffering. We are not yet like horsemen who force their will upon the donkey, the body, with strength and dexterity. Our higher self is for the time being still an infant. He sits in the saddle, where, however, he does not steer, but is carried by the donkey here and there at its will. You must educate your spiritual being as you raise a child, so that it grows from a small and weak to a great and strong soul. Just as for the body, so for your soul as well, you must practice bodybuilding in the truest sense of the word. You have to nourish, care for, heal, exercise, strengthen, and let grow your eternal being as well. Therefore, the old sages said, seemingly paradoxical, become who you are. That means, although you, your true self, are immortal, you still have to make considerable efforts in order to become a being that actually uses the possibilities of an immortal. For example, you have learned just a few minutes ago, your true self is inviolable and imperishable. And now, what happens if someone suddenly appears and threatens you with a gun? You are scared. You see, it is a long way from the merely intellectual realization that nothing can affect your soul to a being that really is not afraid of any situation. The small soul tends to feel endangered, although it is eternal and thus invulnerable. You are not really an immortal as long as you are still afraid of death. Ultimately, the important thing is not so much to gain immortality as such, but to develop the qualities, the abilities that make up an immortal. A human being must be able to walk, a fish to swim, and a bird to fly in order to realize its nature. Likewise, an immortal must learn to be really inviolable on the material level, and thus to become invincible, fearless, free, joyful, and unselfish. The potential of an immortal consists of a bouquet of qualities: inviolability, invincibility, fearlessness, freedom, joy of life, selflessness, which we, all of us, have as yet to develop. Let us now look more closely at these properties. What is your greatest treasure? Your immortality. Can you imagine at all what that means? You are a soul, not a physical, but a spiritual being. That means, first of all, no power on earth can do you any harm. You are eternal and indestructible. All attacks against the health or the integrity of your body miss their goal. They are unable to hit your true self. A shot through the coat goes past your body. Similarly, a punch on the donkey does not hit the rider. Likewise, your soul is not affected by injury to your body. Be aware, never forget, you are actually invulnerable. Not even death can frighten you. Your true self lives on and is as little affected by the death of the body as the rider by the death of his donkey. The immortal is like a god, inviolable and invincible. Let man understand that no one can deprive him of life. Courage is strengthened by the realization that life is indestructible. Certainty about this is the way to fearlessness, and the certainty must be complete to be effective. As long as you are a small soul, you tend to feel hurt, even though there is nothing which is able to offend you. As you are an everlasting, invulnerable creature, you do not have to fear anything or anyone. No one and nothing can do you any harm. Not even the death of the body affects the eternal life of your soul. One must know the complete immutability and eternity of life in order to proceed without fear. One must understand the indestructibility of our essential nature in order to place this value upon the scales. The anxieties of the people are numerous. They fear the loss of relatives, of their job, their possessions, their health, and many other things more. By transforming into a soul, you overcome this weakness. As a spiritual being, you do not need any of this, neither for your survival nor for your well-being. Make the best of this asset. Place your eternity on the balance. Do not allow this magnificent treasure to remain unused. The first practical application will be to acquire complete fearlessness. Think about the meaning of danger. So-called danger is nothing but fear for one's present condition. But if we know that every condition is created by the consciousness, which is indestructible, then there can be no physical fear. The dangers that one customarily fears are dispelled by a broadened consciousness. Therefore, the growth of consciousness is the essential foundation for progress. Then there will be no dangers, but only obstacles. And overcoming obstacles is only a means for the developing of energy. Assure yourself, therefore, that dangers do not exist. Fear is the main cause of the weakness of the generation of today. What is the power of dictators and other oppressors based upon? On fear. Ends the fear, ends the submission. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Victory over fear will be the threshold of a new consciousness. The generation of the future is so strong because it has conquered death, and with it, fear. As long as you regard yourself as mortal, you are corruptible. You have to enter into all sorts of compromises when you are threatened, and your perishable personality is afraid for its existence. Because of fear for his life or that of his family, the old man becomes a companion to even the most unscrupulous projects and feels compelled to carry out acts for which he will be ashamed. As an immortal, on the other hand, you can pursue your higher goals in all circumstances. You attain perfect freedom of action. You gain complete independence. You may carry out what you have recognized as good and right without having to take into account any other considerations. You can seal the struggle for your high ideals, if necessary, even with the death of your body. Your existence, the life of your soul, is not endangered thereby. He who adheres to the teaching of infinity gains freedom of action, first of all. Do you notice how unworthily the old mortal man is maneuvering? First comes a full stomach, then comes morality. What a miserable sentence! It deprives man of his dignity and throws him back to the level of the animals. In reality, it overrides ethics precisely when they are most needed. Principles, however, which apply in good weather only, are worthless. The new man places his immortality on the balance. When you play this trump card, you can live a life of the highest ethical principles, unaffected by and free from false considerations. There exist spirits of a high tension who have fully charged their accumulators in past incarnations. Their characteristic feature will be a firm consciousness of the indissolubility of their inner ego, whence is born the concept of a higher freedom. The generation of the future is so strong because it has overcome fear and thus gained freedom. Only as eternal beings are we able to proudly and freely fulfill our mission. Everyone can live in dignity, even in the most dreadful conditions. Your dignity should not depend upon the changing circumstances, on whether you are faring well or badly, whether you are living in poverty or in wealth. You preserve dignity in all circumstances when you keep your soul pure, listen to its voice, and follow its instructions. That means when you express your higher self. Your dignity is not contained in your body, which is small and weak and usually must yield to the physical force and the large numbers of the others, so that often you cannot help it being humiliated. The dignity of your eternal individuality, on the other hand, of a spiritual being from a higher world, is indeed inviolable. Nothing can diminish it if you yourself do not allow it to happen.